Good morning. Welcome to Pythagorean Theorem Day 2. You should have the notes either printed or at least opened up so you can see them, and your calculator. All right, it says Pythagorean Theorem worksheet at the top. We're just going to call that Day 2 notes. Now this is exactly what you did in the last lesson, only they're words, so you're going to have to draw a problem. So on number 1, you have a rectangle. So the first thing you want to do is draw that. Put in the width of 4 feet and the length of 5 feet. And it wants to know how long the diagonal is. Notice this is a right angle, so you have a right triangle, and you're looking for the hypotenuse. So 4 squared plus 5 squared equals x squared. Putting this into the calculator, you can either put it in 4 squared plus 5 squared or 16 plus 25, and you get 41. So to figure out how long the diagonal is, you take the square root of 41. Remember, in order to do that, you have to hit second and then the square button. And we're going to round to the nearest tenth, and you have a diagonal that is about 6.4 feet long. It's a good idea to always label your units. Now remember, you can be doing this on notebook paper. You don't need to download and use all the printer ink and paper that you have. Whatever works the best for you. All right, example 2, you're finding same thing. The length of a rectangle that has a diagonal of 25 feet and a width of 15. So when you draw your rectangle with the diagonal this time, make sure that you correctly put the numbers where they belong, on the diagonal or the width, and you're looking for the length. The legs squared, when you take their sum, equals the hypotenuse squared. Remember, the hypotenuse is always the one across from the 90-degree angle. In this case, they're on opposite sides, so you're going to subtract. Remember, you must square before you subtract. You may not do 10 squared and get 100. That is incorrect. 25 squared minus 15 squared gives 400. So to figure out this side, you're going to take the square root of 400. Hopefully you know without a calculator that that is 20. 20 times 20 is 400. Always spot check and make sure your answer makes sense. The hypotenuse should be the longest side. So if I were to get an answer bigger than 25 here, I know I did something wrong. Don't forget, you can always pause if I'm going too fast. For example 3, you have a ladder leaning against a wall. So I'm going to draw my wall, and I'm going to draw the ladder, and it's leaning up against it. The base of the ladder is 8 feet away from the wall. So the bottom of the ladder is 8 feet away from that wall. We want to know how high up the wall will the ladder reach. Hey, I'll use W. You can certainly use X. Now, there was one piece of information in the very first sentence that I didn't put in my drawing yet. The ladder is a 20-foot ladder. This is a right angle, so that's the hypotenuse. W squared plus 8 squared equals 20 squared. Okay, enter that into the calculator. Remember, it is a subtraction because they're on the opposite sides. Should get 336. Taking the square root of 336, rounding to the nearest tenth, you find that that ladder can reach 18.3 feet up the wall. All right, 2 more. Example 4, you have firefighters with a 17-foot extension ladder. That's one of those cool ladders that kind of gets longer as you pull it out. They've got a building, and they're going to lean the ladder against the building. Same idea as number 3. It's a 17-foot extension ladder. They want it to reach 15 feet high up the building. And they're looking this time for how far away from the building it should be. 17 is the hypotenuse. Ask yourself if your answer should be more or less than 17. Hopefully you said less, because 17 is the hypotenuse, which is the longest side. Go ahead and square root and subtract. You're going to get 64. The square root of 64 gives you an 8-foot distance away from the building. Coincidentally, that was the same distance away as example 3 had. It's probably a pretty safe distance for a ladder. If the mathematical part is confusing you, please go back and re-watch the day 1 Pythagorean Theorem video. All right, last one. You've got George. He's right here, and he's riding his bike south 9 kilometers. So now George is here. And then he's going to go 12 kilometers east. We want to know how far he is here from his starting point. I don't know how you find your north, south, east, west, but I learned never eat soggy waffles. North, south, east, west. So south was down and then east was right when I was trying to set this problem up. Okay, this would be the 90-degree angle. My hypotenuse is x. So again, ask yourself if the answer you get should be more or less than 12. In this case, it should be more because it's the hypotenuse, which is the longest side. Remember, the hypotenuse is always the one that goes after the equal sign. In this case, the numbers are side by side, so I'm going to add 81 plus 144. Remember, you can go 9 squared plus 12 squared, and you get 225. Using the second and then the square button on your calculator, you can take the square root of that, and you get 15. So he's 15 kilometers away from his starting point. All right, if you're feeling pretty confident about this, you can go ahead and download the homework. You're not going to be scanning and submitting the homework this time. I will let you know next week how I'm going to start grading homework, but it's real important that you understand it. You don't have to print it. You can just work off of your screen onto notebook paper if you would like. Have a great day.